Welcome back. My name is David Warren. I'm a nurse practitioner. Today, we're addressing a very common question that I get super frequently, even like to this day. Why didn't I go to medical school? That is such an interesting question. I get literally asked this all the time, not necessarily by you guys in the comments, but by family members, by people at the hospital, by patients. So Dave, when are you going to go to medical school? When are you going to be a doctor? And I think it's something that I want to address. I think it's a valid question and something that I want to be transparent with you about. So that takes us all the way back to 2008. Holy cow. I graduated high school in 2008. That means I turned 30 in 2020, which is like over the hill. All right, let's talk about 2008. So I graduated high school. I started at university and I really thought about being a doctor, and I thought about kind of going the pre-med route. And it's something that I was interested in, but I had a family that was, I say, full of nurses. I had nurses in my family. I did not have any physicians in my family. And they're like, oh, you should just consider going to nursing school. And so I shadowed a doctor and I shadowed an ER nurse. And the doctor I shadowed was like a family practice physician. And so we were in clinic seeing kind of whatever was going on. The ER nurse was at like the local hospital where I grew up in like rural Texas. And I really fell in love with like what an ER nurse did. I really enjoyed the task-oriented nature. And so you have to like remember, this is my like 17-year-old brain thinking, oh, that's cool. I get to like poke people with needles all day. I get to do like chest compressions and like give medications. And I was like, all the doctor really does is like walk around and they don't even do anything. They just like see the patient and there's not like any task that they do. So again, this is like over 10 years ago when I was 17 years old, my like underdeveloped teen brain thinking this way. And so, I was like, I should go to nursing school. It's cheaper. I can get done sooner. I can get out and make money, et cetera, et cetera. I can always go to nurse practitioner school, CRNA school, whatever, et cetera. There's just lots of options open. So at that time, that was my reasoning for doing that. Now, let's get through nursing school into my first job. My first job was at a children's hospital in the emergency department. And I ended up falling in love with it. I really enjoyed the nursing aspect, the direct patient care. I enjoyed the not so long schooling and the affordability of it. That was the main reason. And at this point, I had to make a decision. What do I want to do now? Do I want to stay a bedside nurse? Do I want to go to nurse practitioner school, or do I want to maybe go to medical school? That would still be an option at a bachelor's degree. We'll get into that here shortly. It would still be an option. And I'll kind of walk you through my decision process at this point. So pretty much anybody who goes to medical school, you have to have a bachelor degree. I think there are some schools, the Caribbean schools, et cetera, who will take you without a bachelor's degree, but with you like your prereqs. However, for any U.S. medical school, which is the only thing I was going to consider, you have to have prereqs. So those of you med students, if you're any med students out there watching, you know what I'm talking about. You have to have like a year of biology. So biology for science majors 1 and 2. And then you have to have like so many credits of biology, like 20 something hours of biology. So that could be anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, microbiology. And if you're a biology major and that's what you get your degree in, then you're going to get these hours. Cell biology, genetics, whatever. You have to have so many hours of biology. Then you have to have so many hours of chemistry. So Gen Chem 1 and 2, organic chemistry 1 and 2, biochemistry. If you're a chemistry major, you're obviously going to get all those hours. Then you have to have your typical non-science courses. So English, et cetera, whatever else. Psychology, math. They recommend, prior to like 2008, they were recommending calculus. Now most of the time they're recommending statistics just because of the research aspect. Also physics, you have to get physics. So you have to get prereqs. So in my like pre-nursing days, nursing school days, I didn't take biology for science majors, organic chemistry, biochemistry, any of the hardcore science courses. And so, me at 24 years old trying to decide, is med school something I really want to do? I would have to go back and take these courses, which would add an additional probably 2 years onto my end goal destination. And so, I'd have to go back to community college or local university and take courses, take the biology, take the chemistry, take the physics. That's probably actually all I'd have to take was, a year of biology, 2 years of chemistry, so gen chem and organic chem, biochem, and then physics. So at the time, I was like, that's an extra hurdle that I would have to get over to do. Now, the other thing I thought about was the affordability of such. Medical school is like well over $100,000, and everybody, in my meager little nurse's salary as a new grad, there's no way I was going to pay for medical school out of pocket. I would have to take out student loans. And really, that is something I didn't want to do. I did not want to take out student loans and be like forever in debt to whoever, the government, whoever gives out loans for a good part of my career, paying those back before I actually got on my feet and started making good money as an attending. And then I thought about specialty-wise, what would I choose? I don't know. And then I thought about, after I'm done, you're kind of stuck in that, unless you went back and did a different residency, you're really stuck in one specialty. And so at that time, I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. I can go to nurse practitioner school and, 1, afford it, and 2, jump around specialties if that's what I wanted to do. And so that's kind of the option, that's kind of the route that I opted for at the time. And I don't regret it. It's been a very good career. I like the affordability of going to nurse practitioner school. I like the option to switch specialties and not be completely tied down to a residency. So those were the main reasons that I opted not to go to medical school. It is something that I gave thought to and something that I thought maybe at some point this is something that I would want to do, but overall, those are the reasons I chose not to do it. Now, that was 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Let's jump to present day. Now, being a nurse practitioner for 5 or 6 years, looking back, would I have done anything differently? And that's a hard question to answer. I don't, it's something I've been thinking of and something that I want to be transparent with you about in this video. I don't know, to be honest with you. There is a part of me that says, yes, that would be cool to go back. But then there's a part of me that says no, like I am content and happy where I'm at right now. Let me tell you the reasons why it would be cool to go back. Thinking now as an APP, looking back, it would have been cool to just like get it out of the way. There are some things that I don't like about the nurse practitioner profession. I've detailed those in other videos. I'm not really going to hammer on those here. The number one thing being job security and the division. So job security, it's hard to find jobs as APPs, and the job security, like it's just not over the next few years. I don't know what's going to happen. It just doesn't seem like the profession is going to sustain itself at the rate at which we are churning people out on these online programs. So again, not the topic for this video, but there are some things that I don't like about it, that and the division, meaning that you have to have a certification for every specialty you want to do, which it is what it is. I somewhat knew that going in. So again, that's not the video for this. I'm just trying to tell you, like looking back, what I don't like about it, if I would do anything differently. Would I go back to medical school? Not now, but looking back after my undergrad 8 years ago, possibly. I also look back at the past 8 years and I've absolutely loved like my life and what I've gotten to do. I've gotten to travel to over 10 different countries. I've taken long vacations. I've developed hobbies. I've developed my photography skills. I've gotten closer with my family. I've had like some good, fulfilling relationships. And I don't know what that would look like had I went to medical school. And it would be different. So it's hard to like look back and say what I would do differently. I would say this to you: if you're considering medical school, if your heart's in it and you think it might be something you want to do, I would encourage you to do it. Like, go for it. And people ask me, that kind of brings me to present day. People ask me now, do you want to go back to medical school? And I'll be honest with you, I've had a a friend that's a PA who went back to medical school. He's 50 years old and like finished medical school, is going to go do a residency. And he's like strongly telling me to go to medical school. And I've given it some thought. However, I'm going to tell you my drawbacks now, post nurse practitioner, 30-year-old, considering that. I don't think it's a good idea for me. Now, if you're in a different situation, you're 30 years old, I'm not telling you that's too old to go to medical school. I'm talking about from my own perspective, would I do it? Knowing now what I know. I think the answer is still probably no, and I'll tell you why. My reasoning has changed just a little bit. So now that I'm 30, I realize that as a practicing APP, if I did go to medical school, I would want to do something that I cannot do as an APP. So I would not do an emergency medicine residency because I can basically function in the ER similar to that of an ER physician. I'm not going to say I'm an ER physician because I'm not an ER physician, but I can function similar to that. There's not a whole lot that an ER physician can do that I can't do. So I would not want to go into that same situation. I would not want to go into family practice or internal medicine or critical care. I would have to do something that I can't do as an APP. What is that? That's surgery, interventional cardiology, gastroenterology with more like procedure heavy stuff, some sort of interventional radiology. And the reality of that is those specialties take years and years of training. So let's calculate this out a little bit. 4 years of med school plus anywhere from 4 to 10 years of residency / fellowship. So that's all in all 12 to 15 years of training. And, looking at my life now, I'm 30 years old. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. At some point, I would like to get married. I would like to have a family if that's something that happens. And I'm not like super passionate about medicine. Okay. Don't hear me wrong. I love medicine. I love what I do. I love helping people. But there are other things in life that mean more to me than a career. What does that look like for me? Family. I love my family so dearly. Like, I do not want to tie myself up for 10 to 12 more years in a very rigorous medical program, going to medical school somewhere else, probably not Dallas, doing residency fellowship somewhere else, probably not Dallas, being away from my family that long. My parents are almost 70 years old, and, I'm not trying to be morbid, but at some point they're going to die. And, I want to spend the time that I have with them. I don't want to commit 10 to 12 to 15 more years of training in medicine to be away from the things that are important to me. Now, if I were 20 years old, that'd be a different story. But now that I'm 30, that's the biggest factor, is the time. I realize now how short life is, and I know I'm talking like an old person, but in reality, I would be 40 to 45 years old by the time I would finish my training. And I mean, yeah, sure, you would be a physician and you would have a good career, but there's more to life than that. Like, what else would I have? My parents would probably be dead by then. I don't know, maybe they wouldn't. But I would lose out on that much time with my family. And again, I'm just speaking for myself personally. There are other 30-year-olds who would do it, and that's totally fine. But just from my perspective, that's the biggest reason, is the time commitment. That and the cost. Again, the cost is well over $100,000 this late in life at 30 years old. I don't want to go into that kind of debt. That's just not something I'm interested in. The other thing, kind of the big three, the third factor would be choosing a residency or choosing a specialty. And that would be hard because now that I've been in medicine, I kind of see the odds and ends of it, and I see, who does what. I don't really know what I would choose. Again, I would have to choose something that I can't do as an APP. That takes years of training. I've never worked in interventional radiology. I've never worked in surgery. I don't even know if I would like that or not. So, who knows? The ability to switch a specialty is not there as a physician. And so I think there are pluses and minuses to it. Overall, that is kind of my reasoning as to why I didn't go to medical school, and still today why I don't want to go to medical school. My life circumstances have somewhat dictated that. Kind of going back to the point about the time, I'm 30 years old. It's a huge time commitment. There are other things I want to do in life. Have a family. I want to travel once COVID gets a vaccine and everything goes away, hopefully. I want to spend time with friends. I want to take vacations, and 10 to 15 years in medical training, I'm not going to be able to do that. So those are my reasons for doing what I've done and for making the decisions that I've made. Again, I'm not telling you don't go to medical school. I'm trying to outline why I chose what I did and kind of the reasons for that. So thank you for watching. I would love to hear your comments. Comment below if you want to go to medical school. Tell me your reasons for wanting to do that. If you don't want to go to medical school, tell me your reasons for wanting not to do that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.